Welcome to the New Dentist Study Club podcast. My name is Dr. Sanj Mohanta. We're going to learn about clinical management, practice management, and the emotional management of dentistry. Let's learn how to be happier in dentistry. Let's go. Thank you to our sponsors, Altum Dental Lab Group and RDT Dental Lab in Toronto. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. We have a very special guest, my friend, Dr. Imran Khan, who's a dentist. And a couple of months ago, we went out for dinner, a sushi dinner, and the conversation was so dynamic. I was so engaged in it. And I thought, Imran, we have to put this sushi dinner on Spotify. I got to get you on the pod. So welcome, Imran.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanj, and welcome to your members as well that'll be watching this. Hope you're all doing well.
And Imran, tell us about yourself.
You know, I was looking at that as the hardest question to answer. Everything else, dentistry, yeah, I can talk about. Life, I can talk about. But about myself, I said to you earlier that I don't know because I'm still trying to find myself. And I think that's the best wording because who am I? I'm a dentist. I've been practicing for just shy of 30 years. I've known you since way, way back. And the funny thing is we're like passing ships. And really, it's only recently that we've really talked a lot. And I love our conversations. And the dinners, of course, are great, but the conversations are even better. I've been practicing in Toronto for all these years, and I started with one practice. I now have 5 locations, and I don't practice anymore. I manage the practices because you have to have balance, and I gave up the practicing to manage and let other doctors take over and do the dentistry now. I married 4 children. So far, none in dentistry, and they're all adult children, so it's possible there might not be any dentists in our future. But as long as they're happy doing what they're doing in their lives, that's what makes me happy as well. I have a granddaughter now, so that's very exciting. And really, when people tell you how grandchildren are so different than children, it's absolutely true. With children, you're so focused on raising them. With grandchildren, you're just focused on playing with them. You know, I started a charity when I stopped practicing, Joshua's Tree. And I love it. It's changed my life. It's given me a moral compass that I never thought I would have. And I very much welcome it. It's my new baby and my passion now. So that's Imran, a little bit about me.
I have chills whenever you talk about your charity, and I can't wait to talk about it later on. But the reason why I had you on is basically what you just said about happiness in dentistry. Because you said when we were having that sushi dinner, you said, hey, I was at a dental meeting. We're all sitting around a table waiting for the lecture to start. And all the dentists were bitching about how stressed they were. And how did you respond to them?
So I said to them, well, and I didn't want to actually lecture anyone. But I said, well, why don't you change the things that you don't like? You have that option. And then everyone is silent. And they're like, what do you mean? How do you change it? Well, you have patients that want you to open on Sunday. Don't open on Sunday. You have patients that never show up for their appointments or don't want to pay. Well, maybe that's the time that they should not be your patients anymore. Instead of trying to serve everyone, realize that you have to serve the people that want to be served by you. And all of a sudden, your whole focus on dentistry will start to be more of happy events where patients are satisfied with what you do, as opposed to those, and everybody knows these statistics, but 10% of your patients are 90% of your problems. I tried to get rid of those 10%, but guess what? They would never leave. I would tell them I'm not good enough for them, and they still would not leave. But you know what? It kind of made me not that I don't care to make them happy, but I realized that their expectations are not what I'm capable of delivering. So I realized that, you know what? You're going to spend your whole life doing this. Do it because you're happy doing it, not because you're miserable. If you're miserable, it's actually time to leave this profession or any other profession you're in.
And Imran, you did something unusual. Like when your kids were younger, you want to spend more time with them. You actually started practicing in the city of Toronto instead of a
Right.
suburb. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was at my early stages, like most of you guys are, and I was trying to do my best, trying to juggle having a family, new to the practice. How do I make patients happy? And you get to that point where you want to give your patients anything they ask for, even if it's unreasonable. And I said, well, you know what? I need balance in my life. I have my own small children now, and patients were asking me to be open later every night. I was already there till 9 p.m. People wanted me to come in on Sunday and Saturdays, and I did the Saturdays, but I said, no, not on Sundays. I said, if I'm available 60 hours a week and you can't make any of those hours, then there's something wrong with your schedule, not mine. So I decided the only way I can get away from evenings and weekends is not by working in suburbia, was by working in Toronto. So I opened up a practice in downtown and I worked Monday to Friday. I used to finish at 4, so I'd be home at 5. And yes, back then you could make it home to Mississauga by within an hour at 4 p.m. Nowadays, if you leave downtown at 4, you're getting home at 7. So
That's like the opposite of what most people would do is like move into the city when their kids were younger. But yeah, you're right, because then you can serve, the business community that works downtown who could take
exactly,
time off during the day and see you.
exactly.
Now you have a lot of associates, Imran. What advice do you give to them?
I give a lot of advice to my
What
associates.
good advice do you give?
Okay, that's a very well
That narrows it
phrased.
down.
Yeah, that you know what I tell them? Yeah, I tell them being a great dentist is actually really easy. And very little of being a great dentist has anything to do with your dental knowledge or your dental skills. And we tend to focus so much on that that it's the wrong approach. Number one, I tell them treat your patients like people. They are people. Their teeth are what you take care of, but they are people you're treating. So develop that relationship first. And once you develop the relationship, everything else falls into place. The other two things that make dentistry successful is number two, don't hurt your patients. We have enough methods of anesthetic now that we should not be hurting our patients. Work on that skill set. And number three is don't have your patients coming back again and again for the same treatment. Get it done right so that you make your patients happy. If you follow those three things, most patients will be super happy with you. They'll love you to death. The other advice I give them all the time is learn. And then when you think you're done learning, learn some more. You never are done learning. The more you learn, the more confident you'll be, the more comfortable you'll be with your dentistry. Most dentists think my dental education in dental school was my education. No, that was just a taster. What you need to do is continue learning and learning and learning.
So what type of courses did you take that you learned the most from?
I took crazy amount of courses when I first graduated. I was in seminars and evening courses all the time. Their practice management courses, clinical courses, any course really. Listening to someone who speaks and is paid to speak or is engaged to speak, you can always learn something. And to me, even if you only learn one tidbit in that entire seminar or lecture, that you own that and you get to
Yeah.
carry that with you. So you never lose in a course. In fact, sometimes I remember I used to take my staff to some of these courses and they would sit there and look at me and they're like, why are you in this course? Everything they're talking about is the same stuff you do. And I said, well, that's why I'm here, because it reassures me that someone better than me is doing the same thing that I'm doing. So I said,
True.
it's not a loss there. It's still a win.
Yeah, reinforcement.
Yes.
Good. And you've come across some difficult patients. You shared those funny stories with me. So tell me about some of those patients and how you manage them.
Yeah. So, what's more important than dentistry 101 is psychology 101. when
Hmm.
you're dealing with difficult patients. It's not the dentistry that is the problem. It's their perception of what's happening in that chair. I'm fortunate to have come from an era where political correctness was not as, let's say, strict as it is these days. So I got away with a lot of jokes. But I love humor, and I find humor relaxes patients much better than anything else you're going to say or do with them. Is make someone laugh. It's the best, the best medicine. I don't know if you really want me to share some of these jokes.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So, okay, you know some of these jokes. Tell me which one is probably the most
Okay, the one
appropriate.
about the super bitch.
Okay, great. Yes. So we had a patient that came in, and I didn't know it, but before I met her, she already made everybody else in the office cry. Like literally, she made the receptionist cry. She made our hygienist cry, and our hygienist was phenomenal. This hygienist, she was great at people skills. She was great at her dental skills. And afterwards, she told me that this woman made her cry. And I said, what happened? Like, how could she make you cry? And she said, I was trying to talk to her and I started with the cleaning, and she just kind of raised her finger up at me and kind of waved it at me. And when I stopped, she said, You're the girl that cleans my teeth. Just do that. And I thought, wow, that's horrible. Now, I didn't know any of this, but I get her in my room and I walk into the room and I, introduce myself. And, I could tell she was a little nervous and apprehensive. So I sat down and she said, Well, you know what? I'm a super bitch. And if you want to kick me out right now, go ahead, because many other dentists have as well. And I looked at her, paused for a moment, and I said, Are you kidding? I love bitches. um, so it threw her off. This is, I realize there's a psychology here of a pecking order. She's trying to peck above me, but I'm not
Mhm.
going to let that happen. So I threw her off by telling her I love bitches. And I use that word freely because she used the word freely. I didn't make it sound like it came out awkward. It was just
Yeah.
freely given. So then I get started, and funny thing, I start with the camera and I'm taking some pictures in her mouth, and she waves her finger at me. So I stopped and she said, Are you taking pictures? I said, Yes. And she said, I hate that. Don't take pictures of me. The last dentist took pictures of me and I think it's so gross. So again, I put in that pause and I said, These pictures aren't for you. These pictures are for me. And she's like, Oh, okay, go ahead. And so I continued taking these pictures and I caught her looking at the screen out of the corner of her eye. So I stopped and I said, What are you doing? And she goes, Nothing. I said, You're looking at my pictures. I didn't give you permission to look at my pictures yet.
Wow.
I knew what was happening here and I needed to put her in her place. Not that I love to put
Exactly.
people in their place,
Yes.
but I knew
Yeah.
that's what she's looking for. She's looking for somebody who can control her, or else she's going to control you.
Wow.
So, needless to say, I finished the appointment. She tried many things, and I didn't let any of them happen. And at the end of it, um, that's when the staff told me how horrible she is and why was I even seeing her. And I said, Well, you know what? You got to have sympathy. You have to pity people like this. I said, There's either two reasons she's like this. Number one, she's scared to death of going to the
Hmm.
dentist. And this is like a raccoon that you get in the corner. She's going to strike out.
Yeah.
That's probably one item. And it actually was one of the items. She actually
Hmm.
hit 2 on 2. The second thing was that she's like that in her life. And
Yeah.
how miserable of a life is that when you're always so negative, negative, negative,
Yeah.
and you don't have to be? I said I had sympathy for her, not disdain, their distrust. I just sympathized with her. And they didn't get that. They were like, Well, get rid of her. She doesn't need to be here. And I said, No, you know what? She has a right to be here. And we just have to learn how to cope with it. She ended up
Mm.
having a whole mouth of veneers and all kinds of dentistry. She ended up having her daughter get a whole mouth of veneers. She brought her son
Wow.
in, and he didn't want a whole mouth, but he wanted half a mouth of veneers. This patient, till this day, is still a patient in the practice, still loves us, still tries to make everybody cry because that's her thing. But you know what? She's calmed down a lot, and she's not so apprehensive about the dentistry.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
yes,
Yeah, now she trusts you. Of course she does if
exactly.
she brought her family in.
Yeah, and I could have just as easily gotten rid of her at her request, right from the beginning.
And how do you get rid of patients that, are causing a lot of problems that you're not seeing eye to eye?
That's that's the thing. I find I can't get rid of them. I want to learn that secret as well. But I actually have learned how to kind of get rid of a patient that is unreasonable in their requests.
Mhm.
And I don't get rid of people because of personality. I get rid of them because of unreasonable requests. So I am open to telling them that I'm not good enough to take care of their needs. And it's the greatest thing. It's like eating humble pie.
Yeah.
Right. It makes them realize that maybe he's not good enough for me and I should go somewhere else. Now, it's often not very successful, but I do try that. And I have had success with it, limited success, but I've gotten people to leave me that way.
That's a great line. Now, what advice do you have to like brand new dentists? Because, patients are looking at them thinking like, you look like you're still in high school. You're obviously not experienced. So what can the dentist say to the patients to try to build that trust?
So I actually call it the CNC.
Okay.
You have to have confidence in
Yes.
how you speak. And if you have to practice that with family members, practice in front of a mirror, do whatever you got to do, but be confident in how you speak. And part of that requires competence. Know what you're doing.
Okay.
And, remember, you don't have to know what you're doing to impress your instructors at school. You have to know what you're doing to impress a patient who is not a dentist. The bar is very
Yes.
low. It's
That's
not high.
true.
They're not going to ask you what 6 degrees of taper is. They're not going to ask you what file series you use on that root canal. So speak with confidence and make sure you have the competence. Don't go into a procedure that you don't know what you're doing.
Mm,
Our CDSO will love you for that, but they will also grill you on that. So confidence and competence. And really, if you do that, as a new grad, you're going to be doing a lot of bread and butter dentistry. It's what you learn
mhm.
in school.
Yes.
Just build up your speed, build up your skill sets, do as much heroic dentistry as you can, and don't be quick. And I've seen many new graduates that are quick to say, well, I think this tooth needs to be extracted because it's going to be difficult to restore. Well, is it difficult to restore or impossible to restore? Because I think most of your patients, if you tell them it's going to be very difficult to restore, they're willing to give you a chance to try it. They don't want to lose their teeth either. So
Yes.
this is a great learning opportunity. Don't think about how it might take you an hour and a half or 2 hours to do one filling. Think of it as how much you're expanding your skill set. So continue on with it. Work hard at it. You will get better just by working at it. You only get better though if you want to get better. And so that's one of the things I also teach a lot of dentists. And I say, do the best work you can. I don't care if you're doing a cleaning, do the best cleaning you've ever done every single time. If you're doing
Mm,
a occlusal filling, do the best occlusal filling you can ever do. I get patients and I love to use the intraoral camera and I love showing patients what I'm doing. And sometimes patients will ask me when I'm doing a 2.7 and I'm so excited about showing them how beautiful this 2.7 is. They're like, but nobody's ever going to see this. I said,
mm.
that's not true. I saw it. You saw it because I showed it to you. And one day when I'm no longer your dentist, someone else is going to see it. And I want that person to say, wow, that's a gorgeous filling. Leave your signature in there. Not technically leave a signature, but as in great work. When I see
Yes.
great work in the mouth of a new patient, I ask them who was their previous dentist and I give accolades to them. I say to the patient, I said, they did great work in here. And it's
Mm,
a nice thing to be able to say it. And it's even a better thing for that patient to hear it.
yes.
So,
And have you ever had to let an associate go?
um, I'm going to take the fifth on that, Fifth Amendment. Yes, I have had to do that numerous times.
Okay. And what were the reasons? Because let's learn how to avoid those reasons.
Yes, absolutely. I find a lot of times when I let them go, it's not because I haven't tried. I've
Okay.
tried with them. I've worked with them. I'm very transparent and open with them, and I also tell them be transparent and open with me. If there's something
Mm,
you don't like, let's talk about it. Because
okay.
if you don't like it, then maybe it's something that I can change.
Mm,
Now, if it's some of our policies, most likely not going to change, but at least I can
okay.
explain to you why that policy is to their
Yes.
benefit, right? So be open, have those conversations. Don't be scared that, oh my God, if I have this conversation, he or she is gonna think this way of me.
Hmm.
No, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The dumbest question is the one you don't ask.
Yes.
That's the dumbest question.
That's true.
So often when I've let people go, it's because I've tried working with them for a long time and I find
Hmm.
they're not engaging. And if they don't
Mm,
engage, how can I be their teacher at that point? How
yes.
can I help them improve? They don't want to improve. The worst thing you can have is someone who thinks they know it all.
Oh,
And unfortunately, there are people. I'll tell you, the more I learn, the less I know. So
yes, that's right.
I tell people that I'm the dumbest I've ever been in my whole life. Tomorrow, I'll be a little more dumb and I'm going to welcome it. I want to get dumber and dumber. And to explain that, when I was 18, I thought I knew everything. My
Yeah.
parents were dumb. My teachers were dumb. Everybody's dumb. I'm an 18-year-old that knows everything in this world. And every day after 18, I learned a little bit more and learned a little bit more and realized that the sphere of my knowledge compared to the sphere of what's out there keeps shrinking. So I get dumber and dumber every day because every day I want to learn more and more.
I love that. And I love how you said, like, ask questions if things aren't going well, you know,
Talk about
talk
it.
about it and also have a growth mindset that you're going to keep growing and growing. And to do that, you have to ask questions and get mentorship for that.
I'll tell you, my best associates, we talk all the time. They pass
Ah,
through cases through me all the time. They ask great questions because they've asked the dumb questions already and we've gone through them. So their questions just get smarter and smarter, and their knowledge base increases. And they're like sponges that just pick up so much. And, I have other associates who will start off saying they want to learn, and then they never call me. They never, want to use that support that I offer for them. And, I can't be chasing them to help them. They
yes,
need to
that's
bring it
true.
to me.
That's
Yes.
true. Yeah, take advantage of all the people that are working around you that you can ask questions, not just the principal dentist,
Right.
but
I say that.
anyone on the team. They
Yep.
have so much knowledge and experience.
I say that all the time. I say empower your assistants, empower
Yes.
your hygienists. And when I was practicing, everybody wanted my assistant. And my assistant knew more dentistry than most of them. Why? Because I
Ah,
engaged her, I empowered her, I taught her the procedures from a dentist point of view, not from an assistant's point of view. So
mm,
she was always prepared and had the next thing ready, not following and waiting for me to ask for something.
uh,
And so, you know what? Empower them, engage them, and they will be your support. They will
yeah,
make you
that's a great idea because a lot of assistants are like, I don't understand why you're asking for composite for this procedure, but glass ionomer for this. And but if you explain it to them, then they'll be the ones saying, you want glass ionomer now, right?
they're with you eight to
Because they
10 hours a
understand
day.
it. Yeah.
They're with you all the time. They're watching. And once you start engaging them, they actually do watch. They're not daydreaming anymore because
Good.
they're excited about it. They're learning it as well.
Yeah, and then they feel valued. And then they're growing
Yes,
too. We're not the only ones who want to grow.
correct. You're growing their skill sets as well. So
So, what advice do you have for new dentists joining a team? Because they kind of feel that they're in an awkward position. Like they should be the leader because they might be the only dentist during that shift, but they don't have any power because they're not the practice owner. So then how do you become a leader on the team as an associate?
Great question. And we deal with that all the time. And I actually say that if you're on a team, you don't have to be the only leader.
Yeah.
We can all lead that team at different points in different times. So learn from the rest of the team, engage the rest of the team. Just like how I say, develop a relationship with patients,
Yes.
develop a relationship with your team. And you'll be surprised that when you become approachable, you get approached. And then your leadership happens almost organically when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when you know what you're doing and you have answers, people come to you for answers because they don't feel that they can't.
Yes.
So engage the team all the time and let the team lead you. When you're
Yeah.
new, you want to get into the whole, let's say, the profile of the practice, the way they operate. You want to get into their MO, right? And so if you're new, don't try putting your MO onto them.
Yeah.
Let them bring that to you. And when you do that, you start to develop your own skill sets within there. And also one big advice that I say to new graduates is never do anything that you feel is wrong. And
Good
if you're
point.
working on a team that is asking you to do something that you know is inherently wrong, it's time to look for another team.
Mm.
So that's very important. I always tell them, I will never, ever ask you to break the law. I will never ask you to
Yeah.
do anything that will compromise your license.
Good.
Everything I do is for your benefit and you should feel comfortable. And if you don't agree with me, I want to hear it because you might teach me something. So that goes to leading your principals as well. Don't think that
Yeah.
your principal is your only leader. You can lead your principal. So anytime I have a discussion with my associates and they have a different mindset, I want to learn it because there is multiple paths to the same solution as well, but maybe their path is better than mine, and I'm
Oh, I
willing to
love
learn
that.
from that.
Yeah, you have a growth mindset too. When you're
Yeah.
approachable, so then the associates will come to you and say, "Hey, I have a different way of doing that."
Yes. And bring the science though. I always
Yes.
say bring the science because I will also bring the science.
Yes.
I don't do things just because I feel like doing it a certain way. I do it because I've studied it, I've learned it, and I
Good.
believe this is the right way to do it.
Good. And that is the right way to do it. I like
Right.
that. Always doing the right thing. Because if you do the wrong thing, the team sees that, they're going to lose faith in you. And then
And you're
how
good.
do you lead when you don't have respect?
And are you happy then? Because, in the
Yeah.
beginning, you talked about happiness in dentistry.
Yes.
You can't be happy if you break your ethics,
Yes.
right? And anybody asking you to break your ethics is probably not a good leader.
Yeah. Now, Imran, here's the other thing. Like, it's great that you found some happiness in dentistry, but with those stressful situations, how do you manage stress?
I don't know. I don't. I think we all struggle with managing stress in our own different way.
Yeah.
My philosophy has always been if you did the best you can do, and you really feel like you did the best you can do,
Yeah.
why stress? Because
Hmm.
you couldn't have done better.
Yes.
Not everything is within our control. Not everything is going to go perfectly because that's what life is about.
Hmm.
But if you resign to the fact that you did your best and you really feel you did your best, you can't do better.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best way I cope with my own stresses.
Do your best and yeah, and realize that you couldn't
Whatever
do any
happens.
better. Yeah.
I know we weren't going to go into this part yet, but it kind of comes into play. So recently I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
I want to
I
bring that up, so please
Yeah,
talk about it.
I've never climbed anything more than Centennial Hill in Etobicoke, like maybe 100 feet.
Which is which is for those people who don't know where Centennial Park is. It's like a baby, it's a bunny ski hill.
Yeah, it's a
It's
bunny
where
hill.
4-year-olds go to learn how to ski. It's
Right.
not high.
So I've never been hiking. I had to. So now Kilimanjaro is my first trek, my first hike, my first climb. And so when I had my debriefing with the leaders, I said to them, I said, listen, I have every intention to not finish this mountain, to not reach the summit. I know my limitations. I don't have any experience climbing. I'm older. I'm not in the greatest physical shape as I should be. But I'll tell you, at whatever point I stop, I'm going to go back down and sign up again for the next trek because I'm going to figure out how did I fail and what can I do to improve my ability to beat it.
So your total intention was just to climb up as high as you can, go back down, and just sign up for another climb next year. But tell
Until
us
I
what
make it.
actually happened. Tell us what actually happened.
So surprisingly, I got pretty discouraged. And if you want to talk about stress, I was 20 years older than the next oldest climber. The other climbers, there's six of us, three of them were 20-year-old German guys that hike and climb all the time and play beach volleyball. And I thought, whoa, what did I sign up for? They're gonna have to carry me up that mountain. And somehow I did the best of all of them. Altitude sickness affects everyone differently, and it did not really affect me. I think I was on so much, let's say, adrenaline of the excitement of taking on this challenge of not saying I'm going to fail, but I'm going to succeed.
Yeah.
And it drove me up that mountain. And I actually had to help some of the others climb the mountain and carry some of their gear because I did so well. Every day they would take our pulse oximetry and all of our vitals, and I was always giving them a thumbs up. Even when it's freezing cold, even when you're tired and you just want to lie down, I always gave the thumbs up. But I think the attitude helped with the altitude.
Oh, I like that line.
Yeah,
So
so
how
I just
many
made that
days
right
did
now. I never actually have
we got to
said that
brand
before.
that, put it on a shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
How many days did it take you to climb the mountain?
It's a 6-day climb and it's
What?
1 day down. Now, not to speak highly of myself or anything, but realistically, I could have probably done it in 3 days up. So because of the altitude sickness, they take you up, they bring you down. They take you up, they bring you down. They have to zigzag so that you get acclimatized. I was acclimatized all the time. So I actually never felt that I needed to go down. I always wanted to go up and up and up.
You know what that means, Imran? You're
What?
always high. You're
Okay.
always high. That's
I
why I was
am
like, this is easy.
with a natural drug. Yeah. I was just on point the whole time.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. I impressed myself as well. Because I'll tell you, that was the most difficult challenge I've ever done physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge mental component to climbing where you're freezing cold, you're lying on the ground at night in a tent, and just everything gets you discouraged if you let it.
Yeah, so that's part about being stressed. Don't
Don't
the stress
stress.
is going to make you stressed out more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Now
vicious
you
cycle.
now you did something pretty incredible after that climb, is you did your charity work. So tell us about Joshua Tree.
Yeah, so right after climbing Kilimanjaro, I got on a flight from Tanzania to Malawi, which is the next country over, and I started our medical mission. And I was kind of nervous, and this is stressful as well, where I thought if something happens to me on the mountain, because something definitely could,
Yes.
what's going to happen with the mission? Because that mission relies on me. There's 15 people and over 6,000 villagers that are waiting for me to come. And if something happens to me, that whole mission's been put in, upset. And so I said, no, I'm not going to let anything happen. And so
Yeah.
we made it to Malawi. We started our mission, and it was our best mission ever. We saw over 6,000 patients in 8 days. We don't do any dentistry. This is all medical. And I run a medical team of 15 doctors, nurses, and others that are from Malawi because they don't speak any English in the villages. So for us coming from Canada, and we don't speak their language, of course, we
Yes.
can't really treat them. We don't even know half the diseases that they have because they're tropical diseases.
Yeah.
So I hired local doctors, and I get them from all over the country, and we meet up in Blantyre, which is my base city, and then we have a medical mission established in a remote region. And we go. Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world.
Mm.
We go to the poorest part of the poorest country in the world. You know, so even my team, I've shown them places in Malawi that they did not even know exists in their own country.
Wow. So why do
And
you do this? Like you could have gone on an organized dental mission trip for a week, but instead you leave your family, you go to a village, a remote village in the poorest country in the world, and you're doing medical. It's out of your scope. Like, why do you do this?
because it is out of my scope and I'm able to. So I one of the things I thought about is, as dentists, we make a impact in people's lives. So my
Hmm.
entire career, I made an impact in people's lives, and I appreciate it. My patients appreciate it. But I said, you know what? When I stop practicing, I can't just lie on a beach somewhere half the year. I'm not going to kick back and relax. I need to do more, not less.
Yeah. Yes.
So I said, and I don't come from a background of humanitarians or people with
Hmm.
philanthropic ideas. And I said, I'm going to do this. And everybody laughed at me. They said, you're soft, you're Canadian, you've lived a life of luxury. How are you going to go and take on all these challenges? And I said, because it is a challenge and I'm going to do it. And so I started with water wells, because water, almost 1 billion people in the world do not have access to clean water. And that's what kills a lot of the children. So dirty water kills children. So I started with wanting to do water wells. And when I joined the team, they actually said, listen, we have a medical mission, and if you want to join. And I said, wait, medical mission? I'm a dentist. Well,
Hmm.
I can look at their teeth, I can take care of their teeth, but not much more. And when I joined the team, I realized that I was the senior officer on the team. I knew more than most of them. So I run a medical clinic here too now, and I have two medical clinics. And so I actually just put our whole style of how we run a clinic there in the middle of nowhere. And we run a remote medical clinic every single day in a different village. And it's phenomenal that we can do that and have the kind of patient throughput that we do. And it's only from being so well organized. A lot of other missions that we come across, they look at us and they say, how do you do that?
Yeah,
We
6,000
see
patients.
100 patients a day and we're dying. And so I said, well, structure, organization,
Yes,
and that way your process is so much better. And it runs for our own practices. If you work at a practice that's very disorganized, you don't get a lot of dentistry done. When you run at a practice that's very streamlined and very organized, you'd be surprised how much dentistry is put out through there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Imran Khan, the humanitarian happy dentist. How can how can the audience reach out to you if they want to connect?
So there's many ways you guys can reach out to me, and Dr. Sands, you can always give him my contact information. They can reach
Okay.
out to me at smiledoctor@rogers.com. And I did get that first address. There's no numbers in there. It's just smiledoctor@rogers.com. You can give them my phone number. You can give them any method they can reach me.
And
They
if they
can
want to find out more about your charity, Joshua Tree.
joshuatree.ca is there, and there's Instagram, and to be honest, I haven't posted enough there. I've got a terabyte of pictures that are not been posted. I get so busy between running the mission when I'm there and then
Yes.
running my practices when I get back that I kind of have let that part go. Joshua's Tree started out as something I wanted to do, to give
Hmm.
back to humanity, and Joshua's Tree is quickly outgrowing me. It needs more than just me now. And so we're doing more and more. I go quarterly now. In the beginning, I was going once a year, and now I go 4 times a year. We've built villages, we've done water wells, we've done so many things there that are just because they need it. I'm well known in the entire country now, because I have two vehicles there. One is a red fire truck, and it's the only red fire truck in the country. And
Wow.
so when we drive around, everybody knows who we are and where we are. And it's amazing for people who don't seem to have the kind of ability to contact others like us. Like, our phones are always connected to us. The word spreads by person to person in these remote villages so fast. It's amazing that I get into a village, they already know I'm coming.
Because you're the king of Malawi. You're the
Not
humanitarian, happy dentist, and king of Malawi. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I wouldn't give myself that much accolades. I also think that everything I do is actually not special. Everything I do is well within the reach of everyone to do. I don't think
Yeah,
I'm Superman. I don't think I have special powers. I just give it all. And then anything I do, I always give it all.
you
So,
do.
and that's what drives me, but that's what makes the things I do as successful as they are.
That is amazing, Imran. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And you're such a cool dude. Like we
Thanks, Dr.
started
Sand.
before we started this podcast, you told me how your back hurts, but it's not from doing dentistry. It's because you're getting a full back tattoo of two dragons. So that's so cool,
It's
Imran
not
Khan is.
finished. It's not finished yet, but when it's finished, I'm going to show it to you, Dr. Sanj.
Okay, thank
I
you.
will
And
show it to you. And
I'm
thank
looking
you very
forward to
much.
our next dinner. You're welcome. Thanks for
Yes.
being a good friend and a great guest. And thanks for sharing your wisdom with the audience. Thank you, Imran. And thank you to the
Thank,
audience for tuning in.
thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you, Sanj. It's amazing to have a friend like you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care. Bye-bye.
This podcast is sponsored by RDT Dental Laboratory, your full service dental lab in Toronto. RDT Dental Lab will help you grow your practice through education, predictable restorations, and high attention to your clinical needs and patient experience. Check them out at rdtdentallab.com. Thank you for listening to the New Dentist Study Club podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube, share and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram at New Dentist Study Club.